This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Wayne Westland Board of Education for October 19th, 2015. The fact that you're all here tonight indicates your support for and appreciation of public education. And thank you very, very much for being here with us this evening. So, perhaps we should get started with our Pledge of Allegiance. We have, I believe, from Edison, is it? Mm-hmm. And you are Sabrina? And you're going to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance. We stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have the, okay.
My name is Sabrina Yearly. I am in third grade at Edison Elementary School. My favorite subject in school is writing. I like bowling, swimming, and watching Alvin and the Chipmunks. Brownies are my favorite treat. My goal for this school year is to be a good helper and a good friend. Now, if you'll just wait there a second, Dr. Weaver.
Yeah, but it blew up because of the ice.
Hi, Sabrina. Who did you bring with you tonight?
My mom and Mrs. Swanson.
All right, let's give them a good round. We are going to give you tonight this award of recognition to Sabrina Yearly for participation in our flag ceremony during our regular meeting. Isn't that great? You can hang that on your wall, and about 30, 40 years from now, you can take it down. Does that sound good? Okay. There you go. Let's give her a good round of applause.
Yeah, I know, but it's not there. Will you handle this motion? You all set? Have we got a picture taken? Thank you very much, Sabrina. Have a good evening now.
Bye-bye.
Right off the bat, we need to amend our agenda with one simple deletion. Under recognitions, we're going to skip item A, recognition of JROTC cadet John Willett. He has a conflict this evening, and we will pick him up next month if possible. Item 155.16, recognitions. Dr. Harmel, excuse me. We
I
are
was
off to a
just-
bad start, aren't we?
I was just ready to stop you.
We've had a bad day today. We opened our water and it blew up. And, but in any event, let's have a roll call, Mrs. Patel.
Mr. Griffin?
Present.
Mrs. Walker is excused for this evening. Dr. Weaver?
Present.
Mrs. Hines?
Present.
Mrs. Madison?
Present.
I am here, and Mr. Buckaloo?
After a fashion, I'm here too.
Okay.
And now we'll move on to item 155.16, recognitions. Dr. Harmela?
I would like to first amend the agenda as follows to remove item 155.16A, recognition, State of Michigan Special Tribute from State Representative Bob Kozowski to Wayne Memorial High School JROTC Cadet John Willett. I would like to move that amendment, please.
Support.
Dr. Harmel?
No.
No.
Any discussion?
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Harmel?
You want to do a or nay? Or,
I think all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
and that will come back to us in November. The student had a soccer game tonight, and some of our most honored students are also our busiest students, so he will be back in November. Okay. Item B, we are going to invite Principal Dave Ingham up to the podium. We have an exciting planetarium conversation that'll go on in regards to John Glenn High School.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Hamala, our guests here tonight, and the listening audience. It's my pleasure to talk to you tonight about a project between John Glenn High School, our Board of Education, our district, and our surrounding community, the city of Westland, and our greater community partners here in Westland. So we don't have the PowerPoint up. Let me go without the PowerPoint. I want to talk to you about 4 items briefly. In this project, let me give you a little bit of vision on where we are with John Glenn's Planetarium and where we think we want to go and why we think it's a reality today that we can actually accomplish this. I have 2 teachers here with me tonight that I'll call up in a minute, Linda Willman and David Christensen. There are 2 astronomy teachers at John Glenn, and they'll be up in a minute and explain the details of the project and what we need for our planetarium. Then I'll come back. I want to talk about the community fundraising that went on here recently, started this summer with a gentleman that I'll introduce, and some of the other community members. And then we'd like to we've asked the board to recognize some of the significant contributions and work by these community members to make this project possible. In the way of vision, Dr. Harmelo, would you pass those out? In our archives, as we were researching this, the teachers found what they're passing out to you now. This is a copy of the original opening ceremony program that opened our planetarium in 1964. Not only is it a unique historical document, but it really outlines the vision they had 50 years ago for our planetarium. In your read-ahead packets that we provided you, the planetarium was built in the 1960s, early 1960s. You'll see the program where they opened it in 1964. Back then, it was state-of-the-art. It was the best technology that we had for planetariums, and it was first rate. Well, it's been 50 years, and the teachers can explain to you what it's like the last few years. We've been closed. No longer can we get parts for the projector. We can't find anybody that knows how to service them. It's really been a struggle. So we haven't had it open for several years. And we want to rectify that. It's always been a goal to upgrade it and bring it into 2015 and the digital age, as so many other planetariums are. In your packets, I also provided you a list of the 22 active planetariums here in the state of Michigan. And there were only 4 or 5 schools. Most of those active planetariums are museums or universities. So we would be like number 5 or number 6. We want to get back on that active list. But it's a significant task. And the district and the school right now, based on state funding, you know better than I do, we can't absorb any big capital projects at this time based on our budget. So it's just not in the works. So I'm going to explain to you what happened, how this project got started, and introduce some folks, and then where we are today. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. The vision that you see in that folder is what we have today. I'm going to let the teachers talk about that, but if you look on page 3, I believe, in that folder, it talks about what we used to do. And these teachers can remember, and some of the guests here tonight can remember, not only did we do our astronomy classes in that planetarium, But we had our 3rd and 4th graders come, and when their eyes left, you would have thought they just watched the movie Star Wars or something. I mean, they were just like, those little kids were amazed watching them come in and out of the planetarium. So it was really great. And it was open to the community. I mean, you see there, it was open to the Westland community. We invited lots of folks in, different groups, and we would like to make that available to our community again. All we need to do is get it renovated. So that's our vision. Same as it was in 1964. In 2015, we want to make it a true community activity and a community resource for all the citizens of Westland, not only just our school district. I'm going to ask, I'm going to leave the paper PowerPoint up here, and maybe Dave and Linda, you can come up and talk about what we really need for the project.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Dave Christensen. I do physics and astronomy over at John Glenn. I'm one of the 2 teachers, Linda Willman and myself, that actually use the planetarium, actually know how to run it. We're trained to use it. It is very old school right now. If you were to go in there and see it, you would see in the center a large star ball, which is essentially a mechanical apparatus. It looks like a big robot. It's a big metal ball with a super bright light bulb in it. That's very expensive to replace. The ball then has holes drilled in it, and it projects out onto the dome. So it's very limited to what this can do. It puts dots up on the dome that represent stars. They're in the right configuration for constellations, but that's about the limit to what we can do with it right now. The only use that we get out of it right now is my astronomy class. I take them down there a few times a semester, and we learn the constellations. I project what the constellations would look like, this week, this month, and they learn the constellations. But there's nothing interactive to it. There's nothing updated. In fact, as high schoolers with, cell phones and computers and everything, it's not that impressive to them. They go in there and they like it because it's dark and quiet, but there's not that much we can do. So we used to do shows in there for them too, for the high schoolers and the 5th graders, the 3rd graders, the 9th or 8th? Ninth graders.
Which are now 8th grade.
Right. We used to do shows for them, and the shows were slide shows. There were 4 or 5 slide projectors in the back that would project up on the wall, and they were synced to a cassette tape that had time markers on it that would run through the show. And even as simple as it was, the kids loved it. The problem, like Mr. Ingham said, is the projectors started to burn out, and you can't find them anymore. They literally don't make them. You can't. Yeah, we searched all over the place to find a couple to replace, and they just don't work. So without that, there are no shows. It's just putting stars up, and with the new technology, really what we need, the main thing we need is a projector. We need a digital projector, which is much like this type of projector up here, but it's designed specifically for a planetarium. It sits upright, it's got a fisheye lens on it, and projects the entire dome at once. There are other systems that we looked at that require several different projectors to cover the dome. Some of them have a standard projector like that, and it's somehow reflected up with some mirrors, some concave, convex mirrors. I won't get into that, and it's my job, so I won't get into the physics part of it. But it's pretty complicated. But the one we found is the best upgrade that we could find. It would put us right up there with all the other planetariums around. In fact, like Mr. Ingham said, there are very few in the state even. I've got one in Ann Arbor, but we'd be right up there with them. And what it really is a fully digital projector. It's like having a computer at your fingertips that projects over the whole dome. So right now, where if I want to point out a constellation to the kids, I have to use a laser pointer and say, well, you kind of imagine it's up here, and it looks like this if you connect the dots. Well, with the digital system, it can overlay not only the lines for the constellation, but also then an actual artwork to show what it looks like, Orion the Hunter, the Ursa Major, the Great Bear, things like that. So it's instantly available rather than saying, look at a chart in your hand and imagine it. It's also fully immersive. It can do videos, animations, just like any computer could do. It's got the capability to, they call it truncating, where it can drop down instead of projecting over the whole dome if you want to show a video, because otherwise everybody's looking up like this at the video, so it'll drop it down to just one side of the dome to view. It's fully upgradable. You just need to plug it into a network outlet, and it'll upgrade all the software itself. So it's really the projector that we need, and we looked at several. The company that we're looking at now is called Digitarium, and that would be the start. With just that one projector in the center instead of the star ball, we could open it up again. Because it comes with shows built into it, we can design our own shows, and it's just it's fully immersive. It's a fluid show. It's not just looking at a bunch of dots on the dome anymore. You see a planet, or a student says, well, what's that up there? Click on it, zoom in on it. Oh, okay, it's Saturn. You can see the rings, full color, fully animated. What's it gonna look like next month? Well, the tilt is different, and you can do all that just on the fly with a remote control. You can control it with a lap or with a iPad. Now we have a big control panel that looks like something out of the Wizard of Oz right now back there with big knobs on it, things like that. And you're kind of stuck there when you're doing a show. The iPad, you can walk around. It's fully immersive and a lot easier than just people saying, what's that? You can zoom in on it and show them. All the data comes up. So it's really the projector that would revitalize the whole system. And we wouldn't even use the star ball anymore. It'd be dropped down into, there's an elevator in there. It drops down the elevator, you can cover it up. We could still pull it out occasionally for old time's sake. But with the projector, it would also save us on the maintenance cost because the one we have now is so old, we have to pay for maintenance on it every year just to keep it working. This one, there is no maintenance. It's solid state. It's a projector. You want maintenance, you just plug it in and update the software. So that's the first phase. We had a PowerPoint, but phase one is the projector, and that will really do it. We also have a phase 2 and a phase 3 for the sound system and the lighting system. But with what we have, we could get it started without that. That's just for future reference. The sound system we have, we could plug into, and the lighting still works. It's a little bit spotty at parts, but that's kind of what we want to get back to. The kids will be excited about it. The community would be excited about it. I think it'd be an excellent thing for the district. It'd be a good draw for the district because there's nothing else. Very, very few like that out there.
And what it would allow us to do is, because of the programs that it contains, and we can upgrade them, as the years go by, with programs that are specific for certain age groups. Where we used to have slide programs that were 3rd grade, 5th grade, 9th grade, we had a public one. This would allow us to do that right through this equipment and upgrade it as new programs came out and such to target what our students' curriculum is. It used to be that astronomy was taught in the 9th grade, now it's taught in the 8th grade, so we would make those adjustments. When we were doing the programs and the planetarium was still open, between the 5th grade and the 3rd graders, we would average anywhere from 1,800 to 2,100 3rd and 5th graders per year. Then there was our 9th grade group, which would then become our 8th grade group. And then we also did programs at night for the public. And we would charge them $3 a piece. We had a minimum of 12 that had to be in the group, and that covered the cost of myself, who did the shows, and extra. So every program that we did made money. We averaged in that first year, and we were only open for the public for a year. We brought in 81 people, 5 groups. We had Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. We had the Red Hat ladies come in. And we also had a neighborhood group that just put together a bunch of families on the block. Got 12 people, they actually brought in 15 people, and I did a show for them. So as the community found out about it, they were putting groups of people together to come out and see the planetarium shows with their kids and the educational programs that we had for them. So that's kind of our goal, where we'd like to go back to again, is opening it not just for our students, but for the public to come in and be a way to make some extra money to work toward new upgrades and such.
In case you ask, if we do this, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do this here next, what do we do with the old projector? We're talking to Greenfield Village. There's some interest there about setting up a demonstration or a history event in Greenfield Village using the old technology that's now 50 years old. So we're pretty excited about that. So maybe we can get some PR and some use out of the old technology that we have to help our history folks at Greenfield Village. So you see the numbers here that they were talking about. As the teacher said, we can do it just with phase 1, a little more than $50,000 for the projector and a couple of iPads to run the programs. would get us going again and get it open not only to our students, but all the students in the district and to our community. The next phases are really estimates to upgrade the lighting and the sound systems to match the new digital projector to make it a fully functioning planetarium. We think if we bid out, I've talked to the business office, if we bid out, we can probably reduce those costs quite a bit to bid those out locally to get what we need to match the new projector if and when we get that installed. So we think we can reduce those projections for phase 2 and phase 3 quite a bit here locally. So that's our hope to continue the project. So let's talk about where we are today and how did we get here. This next slide shows the actual dollars donated and the general folks who donated them and their organizations. The first group there, the 30,000 plus, is actually money in the bank that's already been donated. There were a few dollars left in the John Glenn Planetarium account, but you can see the numbers up there of the actual donations. And then the pledges underneath get us to the figure that we need for phase 1. And I have 2 of the donation checks came in tonight, and the other 2 are due next week. So by middle of next week, we will be at that mark for phase 1. I want to tell you how amazing this was. One of our folks that we were going to recognize tonight is at the Westland City Council. I went there last month for Dr. Harmala while you were having your meeting here, and the outpouring of our community support for this project was truly amazing. It was a highlight of Westland City Council's meeting. These guys came down, some of them we're going to recognize tonight are in our audience, came down, presented checks to me for this project. And what a wonderful partnership between our district, John Glenn, the city of Westland, and our greater community partners. I just can't express that I've never seen anything like this outpouring before. And I know I've only been here 15 years, but the gentleman I talked to and Mayor Wild agrees that this was a tremendous outpouring of support for our district and our school, and I think it's only a start of a great partnership. So with that, I would like to recognize some folks. And I know they want to say a couple of words because they are why this all happened and why we really think it's a reality. Never in our wildest dreams did we think we could get a planetarium renovated based on the cost for quite some time. But you can see now they've fundraised over $50,000 for this project. I want to start out with one of our alumni that really started this project and said we could do this, and that's Steve Kopanen. Steve, can you come up for a minute? You know, he started this summer. He found, I think he was doing a tour of John Glenn, and he asked about the planetarium, and we told him it's been closed for a while. And he said, well, what do we got to do to get it open? And I said, well, it's going to be pretty substantial. A new projector is $40,000 to $50,000, and I just don't see us having the money for some time. And Steve took it upon himself to start this with the other alumni. He created a GoFundMe account and started all the donations starting to come in, and that opened the floodgates. That opened the conversation, that opened the door. I know Dr. Hamala opened the door for us with the city and the city council and some other folks and got the ball rolling. So I know some of these folks want to talk about why they chose the planetarium and why it was important to them to get this started. So Steve?
Yeah, we were going to have a reunion with some of our friends for high school and something at our house. We were trying to come up with some family activities for the week, and the planetarium didn't work out. And I got to thinking, it's you got to start making a difference. You have to see what you can do to give back. And this community has given so much to me. And as a father and a school teacher in Farmington, I'm always telling my students, you got to find ways to give back. So this was just a way to give back. So I really appreciate the opportunity that you guys have given me to make this a reality. So I really appreciate that opportunity because you guys could have just blown me off and said, well, it's too expensive, and then we wouldn't be here tonight. So you guys had faith in the program and the people in this community, and that's a real blessing. So I appreciate that opportunity, and also The outpouring has been great, and working with the mayor has been tremendous. Working with Mr. Barra, who I'm supposed to call Vic, has been great as well. You know, just meeting new people and learning about how things get funded, how projects get funded, how people care about their community and their schools, which we just need more of, because these kids are our future. The kids are worth it. So thank you for the opportunity.
You know, in every project of this magnitude, you need somebody that's kind of a pusher, that doesn't take no for an answer, and is going to make things happen. And that's Vic Barr. You know, I've only known him for a short period of time, a couple of months now, but this gentleman calls me at least twice a week and doesn't let me forget about the planetarium. And he has been the spearhead after Steve to get all these folks to donate. And I can't thank him enough. Vic, come on up.
Thank you, Dave. A little more than I deserve, though. To be honest with you, Steve did some good things right up front. He contacted Dr. Harmala. He talked to the teachers, saw what the need was, and put it forward. He contacted Mayor Wild. And Mayor Wild, as most people know, I have a strong relationship with Mayor Wild. And he made a phone call. Actually, he made several phone calls. And some of the other folks here are also a result of Mayor Wild's leadership on this issue. I like getting involved in things. The first thing I did was I looked up the GoFundMe page that Steve put out so I could understand what Mayor Wild was talking about. I really didn't know. And I read his story about, as a young student, walking from elementary school to the planetarium. And I thought, my God, this is my story, too. And everybody I've talked to about this planetarium project along this path has the same story. We all experienced, as young children, seeing the stars light up before our eyes. And to even think that this wasn't possible anymore is like telling me no, and anybody that knows me knows that's probably not a very good idea. So my energy immediately started to flow. And I started talking to people. The mayor was talking to people. I got to wear multiple hats here. Bill Johnson asked me to recognize some of the large donors from the UAW. Local 900 put $20,000 forward in this program. Jimmy Settles from UAW National Ford Department has pledged $5,000, which is part of the money we're going to get in the next week. Regional 1A Director for the UAW, Rory Gamble, has put $5,000 in. Mr. Jeff Stiers, who the board is well aware of his community efforts at Wayne Memorial with the Champions Program. And in fact, I talked to Mr. Shaw today, and he wants me to get involved in the future Champions Program here at John Glenn, and I told him I was going to help him along with that. But the bottom line is, no is not a word that I accept, or any of the people that jumped forward and donated to this program, because we all believe in our children, and we all believe that dreams and ideas come from looking up at those stars at a young age. I've never forgot it. I'm 55 years old now, and I think it was 7 or 8, maybe 9 years old when that happened, and to me it was like it was yesterday. So I'm excited for this. Little upgrade. We didn't tell Dave everything. We have currently, by Steve's calculations, $52,000 worth of commitments and cash in the bank. So my expectation is within 7 to 10 days, all of those funds will be ready for spending to place a purchase order on the projector. So let's make this thing happen, people. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also got a large donation from our friend Glenn Shaw from the Westland Foundation, and his daughters are here tonight. Ladies, would you like to say anything for Glenn? I'm putting you on the spot here, I know.
Hi. On behalf of the Westland Community Foundation and our father, Glenn Shaw, and the 7 children that all walked to John Glenn Planetarium. We're excited to be part of a wonderful program, and we just can't wait to allow other children and other people in the community to embrace it. I know our physics major in our family is excited to be involved in it too, so we're just excited about it all. Thank you.
And like Vic, Vic, I didn't share everything either. I had he wants to remain anonymous for now, but another alumni that said he will match anything in the GoFundMe account up to $5,000. So Steve and I are going to work on that, re-energize it. We're going to reach out again to our folks, and if we can get that up to $5,000, I have an alumni that's going to write another check for $5,000. So everyone's coming out for this project, and it's a wonderful thing to see. That's all I have. I think, do we have some certificates of recognition we wanted to present tonight?
Yes, we do. I can have Steve, Vic, representatives from Wayne Westland Community Foundation. Trap. Jeff Stiers, are you? Okay. You come down the front with me, please. On behalf of the Board of Education, we have some board recognition for all the people up here, as well as Jeff, who is absent tonight. I'm going to start with Steve. I read the GoFundMe initially. I have 3 boys that graduated from John Glenn. So it's a project that sits close to my heart. I want to thank you for project. I'm losing it. I don't know why. Anyway, we have a board recognition for you, and we appreciate your efforts and continuing efforts on behalf of the board and the community. And Vic, boy, if this is the guy that never says no to anything. I've worked with him on a few projects, and he is tremendous. And thanks for that. And for Jeff Stiers, you're going to take that for Jeff, and we appreciate that. And last but not least, I know the 2 girls here, Glenn Shaw's daughters, we've been friends for a long time, and the Community Foundation is a fantastic group, and on behalf of this Board of Education and the community in general, we appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much. Get a picture of that? Okay. We're going to get a picture. Come on up.
Dave?
Yes, before we move on with our next item, or our continuing item of business, comments?
Before the meeting, I got a chance to talk with Steve a little bit and reminded him that this weekend I was in a class on leadership, and we were talking about how one person can make a difference. And in society today, most people sit there and say, I can't make a difference, I'm just one person. I used him as an example that one person can make a difference. You just have to be very tenacious and get a lot of people to help you. But Steve, thank you. On behalf of myself as an alumni and my fellow board members also, thank you for what you've done for our students.
Anyone else have a comment?
I have a comment. I'd like to thank Steve and Vic seeing this presentation really warms my heart, how the community can come together. We can work with the city, the school district, and I spoke with Vic on several occasions about this planetarium. And what I love about this district is that these type of programs will bring more children to our district. We are science, technology, we have our career technical education, we have the best programs in Wayne Westland. So I'd like to applaud you guys for helping us to create our vision for the future for our children. And I just have one quick question with the grant from the NASA. Are we able to get that again, or did it expire, or what's the details with that?
Dave, you have to use the mic so it gets recorded. Thanks.
Sorry, I don't normally have to use the mic, but I forgot about the recording. You know, we've been searching our records through business, and they don't keep it that long, for the original grant to try to find out and track it backwards, and we have been unable to do that. I've also have a contact, I know Steve contacted NASA directly, didn't get much information. We have an alumni that worked for NASA who I've contacted, and he's trying to make some inroads through his channels in NASA to find out, you know, about the original grant, to see if they'd be willing to do it again or anything. So far we've come up zero. We'll keep trying to look for that grant or contact NASA to see if, you know, if they'd be willing to help us out again. So we'll keep trying.
I too am an alumni of John Glenn, and when I was there, what our astronomy teacher told us was that the equipment was there purchased through a grant from NASA as a way of promoting their space program at that time. My understanding was that it was a one-time thing in order to set everything up. Now, whether NASA is willing to do something else with that, but that's what our teacher, Mr. Sukani, initially told us in astronomy.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Other comments?
I would like to thank everybody who's been involved in this from the beginning up until this point. And I have a great heartfelt appreciation for all of you and each and every one of you at every level of contributing in some facet to this, to take our past, move it into our present, and foresee it into our future. You bring new meaning, and we can now change the motto. When they say, ask for the moon, but settle for the stars, there is no settling anymore. Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to add this, that this is a wonderful, wonderful thing that's occurred. We've got a planetarium that is truly amazing. But equally amazing, maybe even more so, is the coming together of the community, something, Mr. Kempinen, that you've gotten rolling, and that the rest of you, Mr. Barra and Mr. Shaw, and again, everyone else, the community has gotten behind this, and that means behind education in Wayne Westland. And that's going to pay dividends down the road for all of us. And we're going to be in a position to work together going forward, and I couldn't be more pleased with how this is all working out. I have grandchildren in this district, and they are going to benefit from the planetarium. They're also going to benefit from this relationship with the community. So I thank you very, very much. Before you leave, I'd like us to conduct one piece of business. Mrs. Medell, do you have a resolution or recommendation, rather?
Resolved that the board approve the purchase of a Digitalis projector according to the included quote, upon full receipt of all current pledged dollars and support on the ongoing fundraising efforts for the sound and lighting phase of the planetarium renovations.
And is there a second?
Support.
Support from Mrs. Hines.
Okay, you want to do a yay, nay?
President Buckaloo, could I add a piece of information?
If you would, please.
Okay, I'm going to hand to each of the board members a letter that comes from our Deputy Superintendent, Jim Larson-Scheidler, regards to the Digitarium Epsilon Planetarium System, and that is that it's a sole source item, so you wouldn't do an RFP because there isn't another company who does that. So I'm going to provide that to the board so that you have that full information, and we have dotted all our i's and crossed all our t's to make sure we're getting the best deal for Wayne Westland Community Schools, especially on those fundraised dollars.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Why is that? Is there any discussion? Then perhaps we could have an aye or nay vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very, very much for coming here and for bringing us such great news. Back to you, Dr. Harmon.
Yes, thank you very much. We actually have a presentation tonight from our schools, and Jennifer Munson is going to lead us off. And this is a presentation that we've promised to bring you 3 times per year, where we highlight 2 of our schools and their school improvement efforts for our students.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. I'm going to invite our teachers and principals from our buildings up to meet with me, from John Glenn and from Hicks as well. We're going to speak a little bit tonight regarding a couple of great initiatives going on in our buildings, and share with you from David Hicks Elementary the response to intervention process and how they've implemented that in their building. And then from John Glenn High School, the blended personalized learning that is going on in some of the classrooms there. You will also see some of this has been included in a quarterly board report that is going to be given to the board as well. And so I'd like to start off by introducing Mr. Andrew Rosinski from Hicks Elementary.
Good evening. Thank you to the board, Dr. Harmala. I don't know that we're going to be able to move you to tears with this presentation, but we're going to definitely inform and let you know about some great things going on at our school. Can I have the next slide? Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. We're going to talk to you about our response to intervention process, and the reason why we were able to get to where we are for this year is because from 2014-15 to this year, we've had a consistent staff with everybody at the beginning of the year coming back, and we've had very little transients with our teachers. So that made a huge difference for us because we didn't have to start from scratch. Because as you know, you can't. It's not a puzzle piece. You just can't fit another human being into a classroom when you're talking about the culture of a building. So to have that carry over from last year to this year has been vital. Hiring and retaining high quality staff is huge in order to make this program successful. So that's basically in 2013-14. We had success and we were effective, but again, with a continuous growth mindset, we want to make sure that we're always making improvements. So we looked at what we did last year for 2014-15 is we put a lot of our title monies towards human beings, parapros, bringing them in. We wanted more people instead of things. We felt that we could be more effective that way. So that's where our model started to really take hold in 2014-15, and I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, who has really guided this process up until today.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Pappas, and I'm the intervention specialist at Hicks. Thank you. And as Andy said, we really wanted to refine our process and make things as best as we possibly could. So last year we kind of sat down and we thought about, as a team, what do we need to change for the better of our school? How can we make this process more effective for our students and for our teachers? We felt that our teachers might not be seeing the full benefit of our intervention block, and we also needed to see more of our students. We weren't seeing as many as we could, and we really needed to reach more of our kids. We also wanted to make sure that the teachers were really involved. We didn't want to feel like we were a completely separate entity in our building. We wanted to make sure the teachers were monitoring our kids just like we were, and that they really saw, our kids grow. as Andy had mentioned, we decided to hire more people. So we hired 6 parapros with our title funds for more support. And we also sat down and looked at our NWEA and our BAS scores and developed a plan where all of our students will be put into groups during our intervention block based on math and reading groups. So we looked at their highest need and put all of our kids in some sort of group based around that. Our entire grade level during their intervention block rotated. Kids would go to different rooms. Some of them would come to the intervention room. Others would go to different classrooms. And they would go on into a group based on his or her highest need. The teachers were also given groups. We really wanted to make sure they were involved and they knew exactly what was happening and going on. So the teachers were also given groups, and it wasn't necessarily just the students in their own classroom, but throughout the entire grade. So after doing all of those changes, we looked kind of at the end of last year and saw that our on-grade level kids, students in June 2015, our kindergarten had 60% on grade level, first grade was 60%, second grade had 55%, third grade had 69%, and fourth grade had a 65% of our students that were on grade level by the end of the year. We also are continuing to grow, and although we really, are proud of what our students do, we're always changing things and trying to make it better. So these following percentages, these kids have made at least a year and a half's growth. So our first graders, we had 21% who did that. Second grade, we had 30%. Third grade was 28%, and our fourth graders had 37%. And these are kids, like I said, who had a year and a half's year's growth. Looking at these numbers, we knew we had to make some changes going into this year. And what we did was I sat down with my team of parapros, and I made sure that we had training for them to deliver reading instruction. We went over the LLI kits that we use, and we really made sure that everybody knew what they were doing, the direction they were taking. We also took out math for them this year. They don't have any math groups, basically because they don't have, math is obviously different now than when we were all at school, and they don't have as much experience with Common Core, and they didn't have training with New York Engage. And because of that, we do have our content area interventionist, Kamara Busby, that we pay with title funds, taking math groups 2 days a week. So we kind of made up for it in that way. Instead of doing interventions 5 days a week, for Fridays, we thought that we didn't have enough time to monitor our kids and really dive into data. So this year, Fridays, we take time to do our progress monitoring, do our planning. I go over with the parapros any questions or any students they might not be sure if they're in the right type of intervention. We look at how we can change things if we need to for any particular group of students or any one student. And then we only see tier 3 kids on Fridays. So we try to do the most intensive, smallest possible group Fridays that we can. I've also done a little bit of coaching this time around, which is definitely different. One of the fourth grade teachers came to me and said, I really want to make this intervention block the most beneficial time of the day. So Friday mornings, we kind of, teamed up together, and Friday mornings I go into her room and we try to do some literacy circles with her students and try to make sure, that her kids are really understanding what they're doing, why they're doing it, and hopefully our goal is to kind of make them be very independent, with getting their literature circles going and kind of doing it on their own. So we're really excited about that as well.
And just to finish up too, important again of the staff consistency to be able to adjust the schedule this way, because Kelly, as she said, was a small part of it that she's able to coach. Dufour in his last book said we don't really have an intervention problem, we have a rest of the day issue. And that's what we mean, is that if we need to strengthen our tier 1 instruction, what's going on every day with most of the students, to make our interventions, it's two sides of the same coin. So special schedules up there, and you might be wondering why is that there. It's really a symbol of everything. This is the cornerstone of our day, to be able to provide interventions to students, to have common planning time. Everybody is involved in this intervention schedule, from our secretary to grade level teachers to our special education staff who have to look at their caseloads. It's a big beast, but it's the one that has to be tamed in order for everything to turn out right and for our data to continue to improve. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Ingham.
Just a couple of last things. One of the things I want to emphasize about Hicks is every single student in their school is getting some type of intervention. So whether they're the higher level students or lower level students, the mid-range students, everybody's getting that. And that's something that's quite a bit different than some of our other buildings. And I think they're to be recognized for that. It's been a huge jump in their building, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. I'd like to introduce now Dave Ingham from John Glenn High School.
Thank you, Jen. Good evening again. It's my pleasure to introduce another John Glenn High School science teacher to you tonight. Amanda Laidlaw is going to talk to you about blended learning. Amanda has done the research and implemented this teaching and learning process into her classrooms. It's probably the hottest thing going right now. You can't open a educational publication or look on the website without somebody talking about blended learning. So she's going to explain to you what that is as a way of introduction from a very layman's term. Blended learning mixes or merges or blends two teaching processes together, teaching and learning processes. The one that we're familiar with, the traditional one where teachers use many strategies to get their kids to learn in the classroom, and then the one that our kids learn from 24/7, and that's on all their devices, their laptops, their tablets, their phones. That's how kids learn today. So Amanda has taken the research and blended both of those teaching and learning processes into one. How'd I do? Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda, and I'm a very nervous person, so I apologize if I start to shake and sound weird in just a moment, but my students are used to it, so I figure you guys can get pretty used to it as well. I had to switch to something different in my advanced placement courses. I teach AP Biology and AP Chemistry and also General Chemistry at John Glenn. And I was facing a decision. I either had to let AP go because we weren't servicing our kids and we were not going to be able to do so, or I had to change everything I ever knew about teaching and make it happen. So I opted for change because I like it. I like change, and I like my students. So I decided to go for this to prepare them for college. They might not be the most prepared students when it comes to the AP exams, and we need to know that. But they are very prepared when it comes to college. They understand their thinking and learning more than any other student I have ever met. They understand the value of an assignment and why they choose to do that, and what it means for their learning and education more than anybody else. This has made a huge difference in the conversation and interpersonal relationships I've been able to make with all of my students. I started it on and off about 4 years ago. I went to Flipped, I tried blending, I gave up. I went back to Flipped, I tried blending, I gave up. And last year I found a PD opportunity where I could really learn what blending was and implement it in my classroom. So I went for that. It worked out really well. By the end of the year in AP Biology, I hadn't gotten through more than 65% of the curriculum, but our students hit national average on the AP exam. Just over half of the prescribed curriculum, and our kids were getting it. It's worth it. The learning is deeper, it's more important, it's more personal. It makes a difference to them. They're talking about it with their friends. I went from almost losing another section of AP to growing upwards of 3. And this year I officially have 3 hours of AP, 2 AP Bios and an AP Chemistry. And I see that growing more in the future. They like the opportunity to be in control of their own learning. They like the power, they like the decision, and they like that I can coach them through those decisions and help them. What else? I gave a lot of stuff over there. Oh, the last bullet. I like that one too. I like my job more than ever now. And that's nice. After 15 years, that's really nice. I'm not delivering instruction, but I'm helping kids learn in a better way, in a longer lasting way. I'd like to see this go on in the future. I'm going to continue doing it. This is for me. This is my new way of teaching. It's done. I figured it out. It's in my classroom. Life is pretty good. I'd like to help other teachers if they're interested as well. To move forward as a district, we need to consider upgrading technology in the future and making sure that our infrastructure can handle the increased Wi-Fi demands of a blended classroom. More than 50% of all of our instruction happens online in my classroom. The other 50% is a series of student choices. They get to choose the activities they do, the labs they do, the worksheets, the notes. They choose it, they do it, they give it to me, and I'm still grading that other 50% by hand, and that's a little daunting for one teacher. But if we had enhanced technology structure, we have the pieces of technology. We have the laptops, we have the smartboard, we have the students, and we have a fantastic program that the district did buy for me last year when I said, I want to do this. Here's my data. And they said, oh, okay, let's make that happen. And it worked out nicely, but now I need a little bit more to make it happen through the future here. If we can do it, we might be able to incorporate some different cores into it. Maybe bring math and science together more often, bring in English because science is more reading and writing than it's ever been, social studies, and we look at the technological and societal perspective of science and how we can educate our students to be good friends and neighbors and to make the right decisions as they grow up, maybe be the people that start the GoFundMe projects. We need those kids to grow up in our neighborhood still and stay in our neighborhood or come back. And this can help. I'm here to invite you all to come see my classroom anytime you want. There's way too much to say out loud. It's very exciting, it's really weird, and all of my kids love talking about it. So anytime anybody ever wants to come in, just send me an email, laidlaw@wwcsd.net, Laidlaw Logic on Twitter. Come see me, please. Thank you.
So I'd just like to commend the people standing around me and the staff that are in the building who are taking on some of these other projects, who are helping at Hicks as well. These teams are extremely focused on what the core is all about, and they're extremely focused on their students, whether it's helping them to gain a year and a half of reading skills in just a short 1-year period, or if it's to help them become more engaged in their learning and better thinkers. Our teachers are really doing a fantastic job, and our administrators have been extremely supportive of them. Anything that we bring to you, we then share out with other buildings. So the goal isn't just that 1 or 2 buildings are doing these things, but that we're sharing them again back with all of the buildings in the district. And so we do have a process for going about that. And I just want to thank you again for giving us an opportunity to be here this evening. Are there any questions at all?
I just have one comment. I'd like to give a special recognition to Mr. Rosinski, because my son, he went to David Hicks, and I've seen the culture change there. He's like the 3rd principal. The first 2, but when Mr. Rosinski came in, I'm serious. There was more parent participation. The students were more behaved, and the scores are a lot higher. So I really appreciate what you're doing. You put your heart and your soul into it, and I really commend you, Mr. Rosinski, for what you're doing over at David Hicks.
Thank you, and it's always nice to see one of our parents out there. Congratulations to you, too.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a comment?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 156.16, citizen comments, agenda items only. Mrs. Nadell?
Do not see anybody. I do not have any requests.
Okay. No comments. We'll move on to item 157.16, consent agenda. Motion to adopt.
Move approval.
Support?
Dr. Weaver, Mrs. Madison, in support. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Mrs. Mattel.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
I vote yes, and Mr. Buckaloo?
I vote yes as well.
6-0.
Item 158, .16, review and approval, business service items. Mr. Larson Scheidler.
Thank you, President Bucklew. Tonight, bringing before you the approval of a purchase of a dump truck, a 2016 Ford F-650. This is due to near the end of last winter. We have two large dump trucks. The second one basically gave up. The back end became unrepairable, so we had to replace it. That was built into the budget that you approved in June for the 15-16 school year.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve
Support.
purchase of a dump truck.
Dr. Weaver and Mrs. Madison. Comments? Seeing none, roll call vote. Mrs. Patel.
Mrs. Madison.
Yes.
Mrs. Hines.
Yes.
Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
I vote yes, and Mr. Buckaloo?
I vote yes.
6-0.
Mr. Larson Scheidler, recommendation to purchase electricity, recommendation.
I think this is Dr. Humlis.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, though.
So currently, our legislature is addressing two bills. They were addressed in the House Energy Committee, and those are what are being dubbed as electric choice bills. But in actuality, what the effect would be for Wayne Westland is we would not have the choice for electric purchase that we have now. We currently have saved $2.9 million being a part of the school district electric choice program, which is the Michigan Schools Energy Cooperative. If we lose that opportunity, we would lose about $400,000 annually, or up to 5 teachers in terms of if you think of the impact on teaching and learning. So I am recommending that our board adopt the resolution that's included in your packet that urges our legislature to support and continue the current electric supply opportunity that we have as a school district, which means we could purchase electricity through the cooperative that we are currently in, and the resolution is in your packet.
Motion to support the recommendation.
So move.
Mrs. Madison, support.
Support.
Ms. Hines. Discussion. Questions? I have one.
Sure.
If I understood you, the legislature's version of electric choice would result in a diminished choice for Wayne Westland,
Yes, it would.
and would conceivably cost us some of the savings that we've enjoyed over the past 7 years.
Yes, it would.
And some of the statistics that you gave us in our board packet were truly amazing. We've had about 500,000 students, if you get to count the kids as first graders and again as second graders, over those 7 years. And it's like $35 a kid for
Per pupil, right,
for half a million kids.
right.
That's a tremendous savings, one that should go on and on and on. And maybe there are some school districts out there that would benefit from being moved in that direction, but we're not one of those.
Most school districts would like to be a part of the current choice program that we're in. They don't have that opportunity now, and the legislation, if passed the way it is, they would not have an opportunity, and we would be moved out of it.
So there's a consensus around the state that we're doing what needs to be done.
Correct.
Anyone else have a question or comment?
Yeah, if I could, I have one question. I think I know the answer, but through the chair to Dr. Amala. What the MASB's position on this issue?
This hits school districts that are generally in the consortium, and so they support us in wanting choice. There are districts, of course, that don't have that choice, and so they represent them as well.
Those that are currently in the program that are saving money, they support the ability for those school districts to continue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
One quick question, Dr. Harmala. As board members, should we contact our legislators and let them know how we feel about that personally?
Always helpful to contact legislators. The more they hear from people, their constituents, the better. I certainly keep all of our local legislators up to date. I give them generally a Friday email. They're used to hearing from me. But that they hear from more than myself is always helpful. Absolutely.
Additional comments, questions? Roll call vote, Mrs. Padel?
Okay, Mrs. Hines,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Madison,
Yes.
Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
I vote yes, and Mr. Buckaloo?
I vote yes as well.
6-0.
That brings us to item 160.16, Board of Education Committee reports. Mrs. Madison?
Board of Education Policy Procedure Strategic Planning Committee Meeting Minutes Summary. The committee met on October 7th, 2015. The following board members were present: Melindy Hines, Sally Madison, Carol Medell, Michelle Harmala. Community members in attendance were Elijah Hines and Ron Madison. The committee heard the strategic planning proposal by John Silvery of Michigan Leadership Institute, otherwise known as MLI. After careful consideration of the three proposals that were presented, Kay Cornell, independent contractor, Nancy Karate from MASB, and John Silvery, MLI, the Policy Committee strongly recommends the Board of Education approve MLI to lead the district's strategic planning process. MLI considered the current needs of Wayne Westland Community Schools and crafted a planning approach tailored to our desire to include the voice of many and various constituents. The board agenda packet included MASB's Kay Cornell's and MLI's original proposals. At your places this evening, as well as in the past Friday's update, you received a copy of MLI's revised proposal. Recommendation for a motion to move that we enter into a contract with MLI to complete our strategic plan according to MLI's revised proposal.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion from Mrs. Hines, support from Dr. Weaver. Comments or discussion?
I think sitting on the committee, I think the four of us noticed immediately the difference in the presentation that we received from Michigan Learning Institute. They wanted to hear what we needed, what we were looking for. And unfortunately, the other two presentations were, this is what we have to offer you, and this is what we're going to do. So I think we all noticed that they wanted our input more than just showing us what they had available, and we all felt that this was the direction that we needed to go in.
I kind of wanted to add in too, while we're all together, that what was nice about MLI is not only did they want to know what we wanted, it was also important to them that they could deliver what we want and need, and to keep it open-ended so that as we travel through the process with them, if we need to make any changes as we go along, they feel comfortable and confident to make those changes as needed, so that we're not wasting time in places that we don't need to waste time. And there's a lot of flexibility and range, and they feel comfortable and confident that they could provide a successful service to us. It was nice to feel that confidence there, and not only to have the confidence, but they wanted to make sure before proceeding through that they could deliver.
In preparation for tonight, when I read over the three proposals, I could see clearly why you had a preference for, as a group, for MLI, and yet there were some reservations on the part of the committee that MLI needed to make some changes. And I see in the update that came out to us after we received our board packets that MLI did make those changes. And so they have amended already to meet our needs.
And just one thing too, one thing I really liked about MLI is their level of experience, having like a background of each individual that be working with the team, and they gave references to other school districts that they work with, so that was really impressive as well. And contact information, so you can contact and ask, hey, how were they in the past? So I think that was really impressive.
Additional comments? Questions?
I just say thanks to the committee for their hard work and long hours.
And it is going to be a lot of hard work. Mrs. Madonna, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Madison?
Yes.
I vote yes, and Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
6-0.
In a review of the recommendations of the committee, I noticed that they included a desire that Mrs. Madison, you be appointed to the core guiding team. Is this something that you're willing to do?
Absolutely, with board support.
I would take it upon my initiative as board president to appoint you to that committee, and once Dr. Harmala gets that up and flying, you will be our representative to that ad hoc committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along then, that brings us to item 161.16, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Harmala.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, President Buckaloo. You heard a lot from us tonight in regards to the John Glenn and Hicks school staff and school improvement and the planetarium. All of their presentations really demonstrate the increased and ongoing growth of our staff, not only in regards to database decisions, but also learning and the benefits of technology as a tool for student learning and growth. We're going to bring you another set of those school improvement reports in February and again in the spring. And Jennifer Munson referred to the quarterly report that you receive in your Friday update, and that report is a lengthy one that I'll be providing to you. I give it to you 4 times a year, and that includes the information from all of our schools' focus and priority. Tonight we highlighted 2 schools. Last week was a big week in our state legislature. The House approved the teacher evaluation bill, as well as the 3rd grade reading bill, and the critical shortage bill was also passed. We expect the governor to sign the teacher evaluation and the critical shortage bills this week. The teacher evaluation bill should allow us to review and revise our current model as opposed to having to start over again, and we're pleased about that. And our teacher evaluation committee began its work earlier today, in fact, and they will do the work of looking at the new law and revamping our model to align with not only the law, but more importantly, the needs of our staff that focus on growth and learning. We have approximately 40 staff members working on the teacher evaluation committee, and Kelly Bowl, Don Harris, and Jennifer Munson are co-facilitating that committee's work. The critical shortage bill will assist Wayne Westland in filling open positions, particularly in some of our hard-to-fill areas, such as special education and world languages, for example. Additionally, this bill will allow retired teachers to come back to substitute teach, and we are currently working on an implementation plan for this component in particular, and we sure hope that law is signed into effect this week. We would like to get some of our wonderful quality former teachers back in as substitutes. We've struggled with even filling positions at times. In regard to the reading bill, I would like to thank all of our local representatives, Kurt Heisey, Bob Kozowski, Christy Pagan, and Julie Plawecki, as well as Adam Zemke, who's from Ann Arbor and who was an original co-sponsor of the reading bill, and Chris Gregg from Farmington, who was on the House Education Committee. All of them supported our position in opposition to passing House Bill 48822, or the 3rd grade reading bill. All of these representatives asked us good questions, sought information to ensure they understood the educational impact of the reading bill, and more importantly, the direct impact that bill would have on Wayne Westland students. While the bill ended up passing the House, I am ever grateful for their efforts and their steadfast support of our students and our community through their no vote. The bill, as passed last week, continues to include a retention component for 3rd graders. I want to emphasize to our students and our parents and our community that our opposition to this bill is related to the inappropriate use of retention as a state-mandated strategy for improving reading skills of students in the 3rd grade. First, retention has a negative impact on achievement according to the vast majority of the current research. When used, it should be carefully considered, and parents should be included in that process as opposed to it being a state mandate. For Wayne Westland Community Schools, according to the most recent MEEP test, which would have been 2013-14, approximately 52%, or 350 students, would be retained in third grade because they did not score at their proficient level on the state's third grade reading test. And reminding all of us that this is the first grade at which students take a high stakes test that's mandated by the state. Representative Zemke said it well, and I quote, "The bill in its current form tells 8- and 9-year-olds who are struggling to read that it doesn't matter how diligently they have tried to improve their literacy, they will be held back anyway," unquote. And we heard about the work at Hicks Elementary where we're helping kids to grow 1 to 1.5 years within a year's time. That's phenomenal growth, and I think that merits some support from our state legislature. In Wayne Westland, we implement a variety of research-based strategies with our students. You heard about them tonight in regards to response to intervention from Hicks in particular, but that's across all of our schools. We focus on the teaching of and remediation of reading. We implement these strategies throughout the school year as well as during our summer months through our summer school programs. For a variety of reasons, not to mention that children all grow and learn at different rates, I'd like to continue with our focus on quality instruction, remediation, and intervention as opposed to retention for students. The reading bill will now head to the Senate. There is still time for constituents to share their thoughts about this particular bill. I will be reviewing the substitutions and amendments to the bill and will continue to share the impact for Wayne Westland Community Schools. If there is anyone with questions about the reading bill or any other bill that affects education for that matter, feel free to call my office and we're happy to share additional information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that brings us to item 162.16, citizen comments, non-agenda items. Mrs. Patel.
I think we have a gentleman who'd like to.
Would you please give your name, sir, and your address? And
Good evening. My name is Ishmael Terry. I am the CEO of All for One and also the Midwest Regional Director for My Brother's Keeper. If you don't know what the My Brother's Keeper initiative is, it's the President of the United States, Barack Obama's idea for mentoring programs for young African American youth, but also we're looking to expand it through the suburbs and the rural and country townships and other areas. So I'm here personally to come as an invitation from your board member, Melanie Hines, who invited me to your board member meeting here today. I'm also here because we sent out a national involvement at Wayne State University. It is the National Youth Leadership Council Roundtable, which is on Thursday, October 22nd, at Wayne State University at the Student Center, new remodeled Student Center there in the heart of Wayne State University. That's going to be from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. We have different speakers from every walk of life, from Michael Cheatham, Vice President of Comerica, Kim Trent, Wayne State Board of Governor, and our other host of other people. Dan Carmani from Eastern Market, the Detroit Eastern Market, will be there as well to speak to 200 high school students. I know we had a call from Wayne Memorial who would like to attend. They had a little problem though. They were like, how are we going to get there? I said, most schools have a bus or counselors drive their students to the event. I'm imploring on you, on this fine board, to look at the idea of either having them attend in our fall session or our spring session. Where in our spring session, we have it at University of Detroit or University of Ann Arbor in Dearborn. So it usually be a great turnout. Usually we have at least about 300 high school students. We have breakout sessions talking about leadership, talking about mentoring programs, talking about education, social changes, and others. We also have a networking program inside of that event where kids, actually the youth, sit with each other. And I mean not in the same school, but from different schools. and they network with one another. And in that time, they discuss about the same issues that they may have beforehand with each other outside of their different environments. So this is a great event for you guys to look at for the next, I think we're going to have it for the next 4 years here in Michigan, and then we'll be moving into New York and then Chicago and Indiana. So we're going to be hosting it in the spring, I think in late March, and we look forward to you guys attending. If you can, yes ma'am, if you can, October 22nd, Wayne State University, we look forward to having you. It's from 10 to 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if anyone had questions?
Thank you very much. Have you made contact with Dr. Harmon?
I did. I sent out to the superintendents throughout the state of Michigan, school board members as well. Also, our state of Michigan Department of Education, is attending as well. So,
I would encourage you, if you could contact her office and if you could find on a mutually agreeable time.
Yes,
I know
sir.
Dr. Harmala is awfully busy. I don't want to crowd her day any more than it already is, but
Great.
it would be a wonderful discussion, I'm certain.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I make one comment?
Yes,
I'd like to make one comment. I was able to attend one of the sessions, and it was phenomenal. They had the Board of Education, and a lot of them, they were talking about challenges, like what to expect when you go to college, different mentoring programs. So, and like when the children, when they left that event the next day, they were, more in tune to going to college. They know like the pros and the cons and, how to get the grades up. And they even had a video that they showed about poverty and how one of the schools, like what was
In
it,
Carolina.
in North Carolina, were able to increase the test scores and like improve student achievement. I mean, it was pretty amazing. I was excited.
We even had
Unfortunately, I'm
one of the
gonna be in-
members from the movie
Yes.
there at the event. So, and we are also partners with the Detroit Lions, Tigers, and Pistons. So if that is a game changer, let that be. We do give out tickets to the kids and to their family for attending the event.
anyone else? Thank you very much, sir. Additional? Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little shorter. Hi, my name is Meredith Garcia, and this is the first time I've ever attended a board meeting, and I just wanted to say first that it's really heartwarming to see the level of commitment to student learning and student experience from the whole community here. I'm a PhD student at the University of Michigan, and I conduct research on how teenagers use digital technologies both inside and outside of classrooms to write, right? They're writing all the time, and yet they're not always doing the kind of writing that's valued in schools, and they're expected to have technological skills that somehow don't quite transfer, right? They've got this technology skill and this experience with reading and writing online, and then in the classroom, when they're supposed to log in and do things, somehow it doesn't always come to pass the way teachers expect and hope. And I'm here tonight because I've been doing observational research with a high school teacher at Wayne Memorial, and I've gotten principal approval to observe and do those kinds of field observations. And the next phase of my research involves selecting some students to be interviewed to ask them about their own, what devices they carry, what they use to write with, what they prefer, their preferred sort of learning and writing and reading strategies inside the classroom and for extracurricular reasons. And it's really unusual research in the sense that usually we ask students what they like to do in extracurricular spaces or affinity spaces where they choose to be there, like to make movies or to run a website. And we don't ask them so much about those kinds of practices in the classroom and whether they're seeing any overlap between what they're asked to do in school with technology, not just by their teachers, but by large-scale assessments that don't take into account the kinds of strains that technology can sometimes impose on somebody trying to think carefully and make good decisions on those test items. So I'm here to seek board approval to move to the next stage of my research, which is to send home letters to parents to ask permission to interview students and to ask students if they would like to be interviewed. The students would be selected from the teacher's classroom, who's already participating with me and has given consent, and who the principal has said I can come and watch. So they're familiar with me, they've met me, and I would be glad to answer any questions about that. I've been through, my project has gone through institutional review board approval. So that sort of certification and training is designed to help me protect the students' anonymity and the teachers' confidentiality and make sure that the results are, that it's a very low-risk project. I'm asking them what they think and how they feel, which is not something that always gets asked of them in this research area. Any questions?
You're looking for permission, and you've worked with Wayne Memorial, and you've talked to Principal Weber,
That's right.
and he's supportive?
He did, and he said that he forwarded, and I'm actually here because he said I might be on the agenda, and I thought, well, if I'm on the agenda, I will come and answer questions if there are any. And then I was not on the agenda, so I took this opportunity to put myself on the agenda. But yes, he said he was simply waiting for board approval before I sent any paperwork home with students. And the paperwork is just an explanation sheet that indicates what the student would do if they got permission to participate and what they might gain out of the experience.
Well, as one person, I would have no problem with this, but I can't speak for the board. In fact, it would be way far ahead of the game. Perhaps through Mr. Weber, you can make application to central office administration.
Okay, yes, and I think, yeah, that's what he thought maybe we had done, and maybe we haven't done all the things that need to happen for that, because
That
he thought
probably-
he had forwarded it on.
Probably would be best.
Okay.
May I
Dr.
join in?
Hummel.
Yeah, I would like to have either John Albrecht or myself connect with you after the meeting
Yeah.
because there is not information that we currently have on that. So
Okay.
we would need to chat with you about that. There is a way to go through this and approve it and
Excellent.
take a look at it before we would give approval. So John or I can meet with you after the meeting and get your information.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Thank you. Additional citizen comments? Seeing none. Item 163.16, review and recommendations, Board of Education. I'd like to call on Dr. Weaver first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing tonight.
Mrs. Madison.
We've had a lot of interesting things happen here over the last year, let alone tonight alone. The planetarium going up and getting our little tidbit catch up on what's going on in our classrooms and over at Hicks Elementary. And I just want to say that it seems like we're off to a wonderful start already this school year. Looking forward to what's ahead. That's all.
I would agree. Ms. Hines.
I was able to go to a coffee hour with Ms. Medell, with Robert Kosowski, and then I was able to go to the one in Inkster with Julie Pilecki, and Dr. Harmon and I, we were able to go to the math night over at Marshall Upper Elementary, which was really interesting. They had a lot of fun math games, and they provided the children with pizza to take home after school. We were able to participate, like they had a homecoming at Wayne, so we got to participate in different activities with the high school students. And this has been a really exciting year. Everything is going pretty good so far, and I'm just really excited to where our school district is heading in the future.
Thank you. Mrs. Medell?
It wouldn't be the monthly meeting unless I pointed out to you that in front of you is the monthly expense report for our Head Start program. Again, we have several programs that are over there. My personal favorite happens to be the Head Start program, though, and we are always looking for students to become part of that program. So if you know of anybody who is interested, please have them contact Nancy Ely over there. Again, I am so impressed with the way the community has stepped up for our John Glenn Planetarium project. And I was just going to tell Mr. Ingham, but obviously when you have to get up that early in the morning, he's probably already scooted out of here, that my husband at this time of the year usually starts cringing because I get out the checkbook and I start writing checks to different programs at both high schools. So this will be an addition, honey, to the ones I already write. You can only go into bankruptcy just once in your life, and it's okay. Is he still smiling? Homecoming was great. The weather was a little chilly for Wayne High, but again, well-planned, well-executed. The students did a fabulous job, the marching band, all the student groups that were out there, and somebody that was not allowed to drive the golf cart, you know, made it a little bit safer time out there on the road. So hopefully all the kids enjoyed the candy that was tossed during the parades. I want to mention to everybody in the community, we have open employment opportunities in this school district. I know that this is the time of year when people like UPS, FedEx start, you know, filling their enrollment because of employees because of the holiday demands, but we also have openings here in our school district. So if you are interested, I know you can go to the school district's website and take a look at those opportunities. Next month, we have our high school fall plays that will be coming, and next month I'll make sure that I mention it again because we will have a board meeting before those plays take place, but each high school does a fall play. Not always the kid musical type ones that they do in the spring, but even so, the kids work very hard at their craft, and we need to get out and support the theatrical programs. Spooktacular, again, at Wayne Memorial High School. So all the students of Wayne Westland are invited to come to that. After Spooktacular, Wayne Memorial Marching Band will be doing a performance also. So when Spooktacular's over with, don't go away. Come listen to their program. Thank you.
Mr. Griffin.
You know, I don't generally get choked up in public meetings, but I'm going to give you a little scenario as to why. You know, I'd been in this community since '62 and was on the board in '72 when we had the kind of community support that we saw here tonight. And it really heartens me to see that we have those kinds of people in our community, some that I've known for 40, 50 years and served with, to open their checkbooks, open their hearts, and come out here and support this school district again. And I think that really speaks well of what's going on in this district. And of course, I had 3 boys graduate from John Glenn, so that's another part of that. I don't have any grandkids going here yet, but hopefully someday a great-grandkid. But I just admire Glenn Shaw, who I met in the JCs in 1973 and served with him from '76 on in the Westland Community Foundation. Vic Berra, this guy's a bulldog. I mean, if he wants something to get done, he's on the phone with you. So this project was a little close to my heart, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Well, I would like to say a special thank you to Edison Elementary School Principal Swanson, and also to Sabrina Uri for getting us off to such a great start, again with the Pledge of Allegiance. It's always good when we have the young kids come in and help us as they do. With respect to the planetarium, I share with you feelings of satisfaction that go beyond just the fact that we're adding a program. For me, it's all about a tribute to a good friend of mine, Tom Saccani, who for many, many years was the director of the planetarium at John Glenn. Just a great human being and a wonderful scientist. He was a Renaissance man of nature. So for me, it was that way. My son looks at it a little bit differently because he has 2 children in the district, and he and his wife are very appreciative of the advantages that education offer. And he sees the planetarium as nothing but something really good for his 2 children. And I can't help but agree with that as well. So the planetarium, as an addition to what we offer in this school district, is a real plus. It truly is. And the opportunity for a closer relationship with some of the people and the organizations in the community are a plus, a valued plus. We also move tonight to move towards strategic planning. We always talk about having a strategic plan, but in reality, it never works out that way. We're always stumbling over the last piece of legislation to come out of Lansing, or the latest mandate that comes at us from Washington, D.C. And we never really get our feet firmly on the ground. I think with the help of MLI, with the goals that Dr. Harmala has set and that the board have set for themselves, that strategic planning can take on real meaning in this district. I have great hopes that of the things that happened today and of the things that happened this year, that this probably is the one we're going to look back on and say, hey, something really good got done back in October. I really believe that's the case. This Wednesday at 9 o'clock, Franklin Middle School, it's Law Day. Well, most of us are going to have other obligations. I'm going to make a concerted effort to be there. The court comes to the school district, and the kids are allowed to see real trials take place in front of them and see the consequences of misbehavior. And so 9 o'clock Wednesday at Franklin Middle School. We'll miss you this year, but the court will go on.
Yes.
And I did enjoy homecoming at Glen and at Wayne Memorial. For the Wayne Memorial Parade, I, at the last second, stuck my grandson onto the cart, and we went around, and I drove, and Grandma held him, and the kid is throwing candy, and halfway through, he says to his grandmother, "I hope they don't think that I don't like candy." And so it kind of made it for me. I don't know that it impressed anybody else, but I was pleased with that. Several of us are going to be in Traverse City this weekend for the MASB annual conference, and I look forward to that. It's always a good opportunity to meet other board members from around the state and to hear presentations on what is and is not happening in the world of school boards. And for me, that's it. Unless there's someone else that has anything, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support?
And that is Mr. Griffin and Mrs. Addison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening, and thank you for being here.